Hey everybody, Dan from the Den here, and today I'm going to be talking about my first impressions of Gotham. First of all, this has been a very hyped series, okay? It's had a lot of ad campaigns, a lot of good marketing. I mean, this series already had pretty good ratings. I mean, I think it went, I think it tied with The Big Bang Theory, maybe? Or it might have went, like, one spot below against it. But either way, it has some very promising ratings going on right now. I've heard some decent critical praise for it. And honestly, when I saw the idea of it, I was actually kind of really interested to see where it would go. Because I think the idea of seeing the Gotham police force in its early days before Batman and seeing how they would deal with a lot of these like extraordinary criminals, not necessarily masked vigilantes and stuff, but mostly dealing with a lot of like the mob influence that the city's going on, seeing a lot of the more dangerous criminals and murderers and guys in Arkham, that's an interesting idea. That is honestly an interesting idea. Even if Batman was involved, I was kind of behind that idea, especially making Commissioner Gordon the main character. I was with it. I'm a big fan of Batman Year One, both the comic and the animated movie that came out based on it. So I was really interested to see what they would do for this series. And, well, it's okay. I mean, I wish I could give you, like, just based on this pilot, I wish I could just say, like, it sucked or it's bad. But it's just okay for right now. I don't know how far this series is going to develop afterward, but so far, it's okay. I thought it was okay. I mean, I gave it even a second viewing, and I just really think it's okay. I don't really think it's as good as most people are kind of like saying it is, nor is it as amazing. Like, I think it's just okay for right now. And a lot of that stems from the fact that I feel like a lot of it is stuff that we've already seen in a cop drama. Like, if we're already talking about just, like, not talking about the whole fact that this is based on comic books. If we were just looking at the premise of this show on its own merits, based on, like, hundreds of other shows that do this, it's kind of mediocre in that sense. I mean, if we're talking that, I mean, there's shows like The Wire, True Detective, The Shield, just other cop shows that have gone a little bit more interesting places. And even this one doesn't really seem to push as farther as it can. Like, you feel like it wants to, but what it pushes is just kind of, we've been there and done that. Like, one of the plot lines they're introducing is that Renee Montoya, an officer at the Gotham Police Central, has had an affair with Commissioner Gordon's fiance. And the thing is like, I'm actually glad that we are talking about Renee Montoya being a lesbian, which is good. I mean, that's part of her character, and I'm glad they didn't shy away from that. But really, it just seems like unnecessary kind of triangle love kind of thing going on, or jealous ex sort of thing that I think is kind of unnecessary. And again, that's something that not even just in cop shows, we've seen that plenty of times, plenty of times before. The whole idea of a gang warfare and people are trying to, reclaim the streets, or someone's trying to take hold of the city. Again, we've seen that before. I mean, I think that was actually, that's a plot line from season 3 of The Wire, actually. The thing about it is, it may not be the most original thing, but there are some things that I thought were kind of interesting. As far as it. Like, I'm going to go on to the good stuff, too. I think, so far, some of the characters are very well acted. I think most of the cast works very well. Some of the younger versions of the villains that we see from the Batman universe do definitely kind of feel like those characters in their early stages. And I definitely like to see how they develop into the people that they are today. But at that same time, too, they are pushed. Like, no matter what, they're pushed. And it's really more of an in-your-face kind of style thing. Like, I've heard people talk about, oh, well, there's so many Easter eggs in this series. And I'm like, yeah, because none of them were subtle. None of them were ever subtle at all. I mean, literally, one of these scenes is actually having young Poison Ivy there. Pamela Isley, my bad. Pepper Isley, or Ivy Pepper. You know, because Poison Ivy, Ivy Pepper. She's there, she's tending plants, and like there's always scenes like you know, Oswald Cobblepot's kind of beating up on some guy, and someone goes, you know, Penguin, you should really calm down. Like, not at all subtle. No subtlety at all. I mean, even when we see the Riddler, he's like, man, Enigma, you keep asking a lot of riddles. Wink, wink, wink. Get it? He's a Batman villain. He's gonna be a Batman villain. We're gonna see him as a Batman villain called the Riddler. Do you get it? Do you get it? And as a fan of those characters, I'm like, yeah, I get it. But there could have been a subtler way, and especially with shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or even Arrow, I think they've done a subtler way of putting in those Easter eggs for those fans. And especially even setting up villains, too, because nothing was really very subtle as far as that goes. Some of them felt very unnecessary, because when I first saw the advertising, I thought, okay, we'd see them in separate episodes here and there, and they'd kind of pop in, and we see where their story goes. No, they're all up front in the first episode. All of them up front. And some of them have absolutely no business. Like, Riddler's cameo is just a cameo. He's just there to establish he works at the police station as a forensic expert. That's it. And then we go to the next scene. Like, really, the only character who actually feels like he's actually necessarily part of the plot is the Penguin. I mean, you could make an argument for Poison Ivy being in there, but again, it could have been any character. You really could have put any little girl character and put any name there, and it would have been like, oh, see, that's that character from the comic books. I mean, really, you could have put any name. Like, if you said that was Selena Kyle, someone would have gone, it would have been the same effect of that kind of scene. Really, to see that. As far as it plays out, I don't know. But again, this is just my first impressions from this very pilot. Like, again, Penguin seems to be the only one who's actually there because he's actually involving himself in the plot. The worst one is Catwoman, Selena Kyle, who does nothing. She does absolutely nothing in this pilot. Mostly, we just see her kind of creeping around and stalking things and just kind of like making poses for like pictures, just going like by a gravestone or like up on a hill going like, or like by Gotham Manor just up on a hill going like, just staring and kind of just making these poses. She doesn't say a damn thing at all. Unless you think like making little sounds to call it a cat counts as dialogue, but nothing there, which kind of already makes me a little skeptical on why they would have her be silent for the first episode. I don't know if that's just because of her character or if they're not really too confident in the actress they chose. I don't really know. So I did kind of get weary from that. I did feel like the villains were there. As far as the new villain, Fish Mooney, she's really, again, okay. I mean, as far as like her actor, Jada Pinkett Smith, I think she does fine. I really do think she does a fine job with what she's given. And she gives a serviceable performance. As far as her character, again, it's just something I've kind of seen. It's more or less another trope with a crime drama or even a detective story. Like, she's the number two who wants to be the big fish in the pond of crime and Gotham and wants to take over the city. And she's a head honcho and stuff like that. Like, basically the femme fatale kind of character. And really, it's nothing very interesting or nothing really exciting that really got me like, oh, this character's good. I've seen people praise the character, but it's just nothing that I've really grabbed onto, really. I mean, again, the actress does a fine job portraying her with what they got, but as far as her character, it's just kind of okay. Maybe we'll see some things going there, but to be honest, if I had to be, like, honest, brutally honest, I'm kind of more interested in Penguin's kind of quest to become the head crime boss of Gotham more than hers, because again, she's just kind of more stereotypical. Like, at least Penguin, I know an angle they could kind of go down there with. I mean, maybe it's like what they did with, maybe they could go the way like Al Capone did in not Breaking Bad. Whoo, where the fuck is my mind today? With Boardwalk Empire. I thought that was a great transition for that character and a really, really good development too. Maybe we could go down that line? I don't know. Like, I could see that. I could see him being given a similar path as like Al Capone. I actually think that'd be actually brilliant. Now, as far as the good characters go, or the good guys, of course we have like Alfred and Bruce Wayne. Only this time Bruce Wayne is very young, obviously, and of course we cut back to something that we have seen in every Batman iteration ever fucking made, because we can never ever show this scene at all, which is the night Batman's parents got killed. In fact, it's the first scene. Sorry. It's really the first scene, and again, I have no complaints about the scene. It's just something where it's like, oh, okay, we gotta hit this beat. Okay, we've seen it before. And I think the young actor does a good job. I kind of liked his development as far as it goes, and I'm actually really interested to see what they do with young Bruce Wayne, or how they're going to have him like somehow be connected with Commissioner Gordon, because definitely they're trying to push that relationship between Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon, and we definitely already see certain signs of him in kind of like a Batman state, like already. There's a scene where Commissioner Gordon is like going to his house to try and tell him that there's a person. Sorry, my mind is just all riled up today. But anyway, he's going there to try and like tell Bruce, I promise you, I will find the guy who shot your parents, and I will bring him to justice, and I will fix the Gotham Police Central, and I'm going to clean up the city. And then, of course, we know what actually really happens, because, I actually read the comic books and watched the series. We all know that it's really Batman does the job, and Commissioner Gordon just, flicks a switch and puts on a bright light. But anyway, he's there, and we see Bruce on top of a building, and he's trying to conquer his fear of heights. So there's already a little bit of that build to it, which is interesting. This is also the second iteration of Alfred that they tried to go like a very Cockney kind of Alfred, like I like to say Beware the Batman. They try to go less Jason Statham-y with him and try to just make him more Cockney, and I don't mind that for Alfred. I like an Alfred with a little bit more of a fight in him. I kind of like that Alfred. I like those two so far, and I'm interested to see where their plots go. I liked Harvey Bullock. I liked his actor, and by the end, I definitely did buy that he was the character. And even Commissioner Gordon, too, his actor, I thought, was really good. I know I'm blanking on names right now. I probably should have prepared for this, but I think they do a fine job. And at first, I will say that, they kind of seemed like they were struggling to find a little bit of their place kind of going in. But by the end, you definitely bought them, and you definitely bought their relationship as partners in this show, which is good. I want to see that be developed, and I want to see where that goes, because I think the strength of this series could be seeing the building blocks of these characters, seeing how they went from point A to point B, and seeing how their relationships develops. If the show will develop as good as it can be, we can have some great character relationships and great dynamics and great back and forth between people, and that's what I'm interested to see. But unfortunately, it feels like the writing is just a little bit too been there, kind of done that as far as criminals go. I mean, again, even Gordon's kind of backstory. He's a guy, he's recently an ex-soldier, comes back to like the worst city imaginable and wants to clean it all up, and of course we know what happens. But aside from those very, very familiar kind of tropes, I mean, the femme fatale, the love triangles, the dirty city that's under control, and just all these little things too, and the dedicated cop will stop at nothing to clean the streets, and his corrupt buddy or something like that. It does kind of work in certain aspects. I mean, it's filmed very well, except for one montage scene where Gordon and Harvey are taking in all these suspects for the Wayne's murder. It feels very kind of like cheap 90s kind of CSI. montage that feels kind of outdated, especially for nowadays. I think the sets look awesome. This Gotham looks pretty cool. I think, again, the actors do a good job. But I think what really does kind of hurt this one and just leads it to a meh kind of thing so far is that, you know, we don't really get anything new. It just kind of feels very mediocre in terms of a cop show. I mean, again, if we're talking about a cop show or even just a crime drama, I mean, there's lots that do a lot of good things, and they hook you in that first episode because either they're so real or they have well-written characters and they have really interesting personalities. And this series has the potential for those interesting personalities and interesting back and forth, but it just feels a little bit more concerned with setting up villains who are going to be Batman villains later on. Like, this character's going to be a Batman villain. This character's going to be a Batman villain. That character's going to be a Batman villain. If it just went to... If it was just, like, little Easter eggs, I'd be fine if they were subtle, but they're not very subtle. They're just out in the open, and it really does kind of take away from the possible strengths of this one, and I think the writing could just be a bit better. It's nothing really there. I mean, this is a show that does take itself very seriously, and for that kind of show, it needs, like, something. It needs, like, a good punch-up or something here. And that could happen in this show. That could really happen. I can see the possibility of the show getting better after the first episode, but as far as the first episode, it's just kind of meh. It's an okay show. I mean, it's a decent time waster with some good acting and some good sets and everything, and it's filmed well. But it just doesn't really grab you, really. I think, hopefully what we get is that we don't get as much pushing these villains and trying to, like, make the obvious things of, they're going to be a supervillain. I think we'll be fine. If we just focus on maybe a couple an episode, like maybe just pick 2 and see how they develop, or even just 3, and we'll see how they go into the main plot, that's fine. That's honestly fine. I would be really okay with that. I'm interested to see where Gordon goes, especially, we learned this episode that Gordon's father actually might have been involved with the mob somehow, and actually might have been a dirty cop. So that's an interesting angle right there that kind of got me surprised. Like, that one could be interesting. Like, the Fish Mooney stuff, I really don't give a shit about the Fish Mooney stuff. I mean, the Penguin actually kind of taking over as crime lord, that would be kind of interesting. I'm more interested in that because I think that could have some potential. Especially if they went that Al Capone angle. These writers, I'm serious, that would be such a great angle to go with him. It's like kind of Gotham's Al Capone. I really think that would be awesome. But anyway, as far as the series goes, I can't really comment on that because, again, it's a first episode. It's something that makes you interested. It's supposed to grab your attention, and it's supposed to get you involved in the series and introduce plot elements. There's some interesting plot elements that I'd like to see happen, but there's some plot elements that I just really don't care, either because they've been played out or the characters just aren't that engaging. Alright guys, so that was my first impression of Gotham. I thought it was okay. I think there's a lot of room to develop, and who knows, maybe as the season goes on, we will see some good development coming from there. But I will tell you right now, when the season ends, we will be doing a Dan and Shane Talk About, and we will discuss the series further and just kind of see if it at all should go for a second season. I mean, there's already a second season probably ordered based on just the ratings alone for this one, but we will be talking about Gotham eventually later on. If you want us to talk about any of the other upcoming fall shows that are supposed to be coming around, like Constantine or iZombie or even The Flash, hit us up in the comment section. We'll even do first impressions on that. So until then, peace out, guys.